What's up, VC? How you doing? Bobby B here. I know it's been a minute. I know. I'm not deliberately ignoring you. It's not you. It's me. I've been busy. I hope you guys haven't been worried about me. I've been good. I've just life gets in the way, and I haven't been doing these as much. I just want to do a little shout out to some of the to some of you, although I won't remember any of your names, but there's some who reached out to me on Instagram and said, "Hey, are you ever going to get back to the countdown?" I appreciate that. Someone even approached me at the local record store at Sonic Boom and told me that they too were enjoying the countdown. So I was quite taken aback from that, and that was kind of fun. Hey, thanks. I'm glad some of you are watching this. I have a relatively low-key channel. I'm not a super active member of the vinyl community, and that's kind of by choice. Like I say, I like to keep things small. So yeah, so it's kind of nice when some of you are that interested. So I apologize. Here's a video now. We're into the top 60. Because it's been so long, I don't know, should I just kind of ramble off my top 100 so far? I can do it real fast. I'll do it real fast. Okay, top 100. So here we go. So far, these albums have been on the countdown, if you don't want to watch all the other videos, okay? My top 100 albums of all time. Number 100, Weezer's Pinkerton. Number 99, Tom Waits' Nighthawks at the Diner. 98, Dinosaur Jr.'s Bug. Number 97, Elvis Costello and the Attractions, this year's model. Number 96 is Genesis, Foxtrot. Number 95 is MC5, Back in the USA. Number 94, Stiff Little Fingers, Inflammable Material. 93, Jefferson Airplane's Surrealistic Pillow. 92, The Northern Pike's Secrets of the Alibi. Number 91 is Moby Grape's self-titled album. Number 90 is Midlake, The Trials of Van Occupantha. Number 89 is Public Enemy, Yo, It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back. Number 88, Husker Du with Zen Arcade. 87, Cannonball Adderley, Something Else. 86, They Might Be Giants, Flood. Number 85, Minutemen, Double Nickels on the Dime. 84, Patti Smith, Horses, 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 Horses. Number 83, Can, Tago Mago. 82, Ride, Nowhere. 81, Slint, Spiderland. Number 80, Miles Davis, Sketches of Spain. 79, The Brian Jonestown Massacre, Give It Back, Give It Back. Number 78, Joe Jackson, Look Sharp, Sharp, Sharp. Number 77, The Dave Brubeck Quartet, Time Out. 76, Chick Corea, Return to Forever. 75, Fleetwood Mac's Rumors. 74, Wilson Pickett's The Wicked Picket. Number 73 is Nirvana's Nevermind. 72, David Bowie, The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. 71, Sonic Youth, Daydream Nation. 71, Tortoise, Millions Now Living, Will Never Die. 69, New York Dolls, self-titled album. 68, X with the album Los Angeles. 67, Johnny Cash at Folsom Prison. 66, The Weather Report's self-titled album. 65, The Rolling Stones' Aftermath. 64, Bubble Puppies, A Gathering of Promises. 63, Roland Kirk's Left and Right. 62, Godspeed You Black Emperor, Lift Your Skinny Fists Like Antennas to Heaven. 61's Noi, Noi with the album Noi. 75, we're all caught up. Let's get back into the countdown. Casey Kasem, and now on with the countdown. And at number 60, this is where the countdown gets a little bit Rolling Stoney, and I don't mean the band Rolling Stones. I mean like Rolling Stone magazine. This, for the most part, this part I noticed from number 60 to 51, it's a little bit obvious, but some of these albums are classics for a reason, and there's some of my favorites too. So let's get right into it. At number 60, we've got Marvin Gaye with What's Going On. An amazing album. This album came out in May 1971. It was his 11th album. This was a challenging time in Marvin Gaye's life. He was going through a lot of turmoil. You can Google that. You can Wikipedia that. But up to this point, Motown was basically all about singles. And creating an album with kind of a concept and a theme was kind of frowned upon. but Marvin Gaye did it anyways because he had something to say. And this album, it addresses racism, it addresses peace and love, it addresses war, it addresses spirituality, it addresses so many different things going on in Marvin Gaye's life, and it is powerful. And it's an amazing, amazing album. Obviously, the title track, What's Going On, but then Flying High in the Friendly Sky, God is Love, Mercy, Mercy Me, oh, mercy, mercy me, all things ain't what they used to. It's an amazing album. What's Going On? What's Going On? Marvin Gaye at number 60. All right, number 59, here's one, and if you've seen some of my older videos, you remember my thoughts on this. This is kind of one a few years ago would not have been in my top countdown of anything because I used to hate this guy. I just didn't like his music, and I didn't understand the hype around him. But then as the years went by, I started developing more and more of a personal taste in music, and you know, it got to the point where all of my favorite artists seemed to be influenced by this guy. And it didn't matter if they were punk, it didn't matter if they were alt country or rock or what avenue. I mean, the Arcade Fire and Ryan Adams and Elvis Costello, like so many, pardon me, artists that I like were influenced by this guy. And so finally I just had to admit that, you know, he's got to have something. And so I went back to the first album and I just started fresh. I started new, and I did my best to, in fact, you know what, I kind of focused on the music over the voice. And anyways, I came to love a lot of his stuff. I don't love it all, but I love a lot of it. This is his best album, and it's my number 59. It is Bruce Springsteen, Darkness on the Edge of Town. This thing was released June 1978, and it's his fourth album, and to me, it's by far his best album. Yes, his head is huge on this album cover. Don't know why he went with that. Still kind of looks cool with the leather jacket or whatever, but my goodness, I'm not kidding. Yeah, but an amazing album. Badlands is perhaps one of the best songs he's ever done. Adam Raise a King, Candy's Room, my goodness, that's an underrated cut. Darkness on the Edge of Town. This is an amazing album. And with Springsteen, I mean, if you've decided you don't like him, and sometimes it's maybe because you grew up at the same time as I did, where Born in the USA was kind of the big album, and those songs are kind of, you know, well, poppy, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but maybe you're not a big fan of that. Like, that's what I didn't like. And so I found it hard to focus on the music and the lyrics and everything else because I was too busy listening to his, you know, like his voice there, his marble mouth voice there. But basically, when I went back to the first album, started over, and just listened to him with an open mind, I chose to focus on the lyrics and the music first, and then let myself settle into the voice afterwards. And anyways, yeah, a brilliant album, one of my top 100 albums of all time. And as I mentioned before, my top 100 albums, in many ways, they're all tied for number one, really. So, yeah, Darkness on the Edge of Town, beauty album. All right, at number 58. We get a little bit psych. This album was released in July 1968, and it is the fourth album, I guess. I always thought it was the third. Anyways, according to the internets, which means it must be true, this is their third album, or fourth album. It's the West Coast pop art experimental band. The album is called Volume 3, A Child's Guide to Good and Evil. Volume 1 and 2 are also awesome. Amazing albums. But this one's my favorite. This is the weirdest one. This is the trippiest one. This is the most psychedelic one. But it's just an outstanding and amazing album. It requires a little bit of patience, but I don't know. If you're a Psych fan, I don't know. I don't think it requires that much patience. It's amazing. And this is an original Canadian pressing. Just outstanding. If you're into the Psych rock, you already know this one. If you're not, but you'd like to get into the psych rock, this is as good a place to start as any. But there you go. That's my number 58. My number 57th best album of all time. An album I like slightly better than my number 58 because this numbering system is very, very important. It came out in October 1974, and it's a bit of a sleeper hit. It's Van Morrison's Veedon Fleece. Now, this is an interesting album. This album came out October 1974. It is his 8th album. And it's, it's got a lot of that sort of stream of consciousness lyricism that he does, which was very popular and made Astral Weeks an incredibly successful album for him, a critic's favorite. That was followed up by this, and the people didn't love it. It got some pretty bad reviews, and from what I understand, Van Morrison even kind of took I think it was a 3-year break or something after this, because he was so depressed by the reception that it received. But anyways, as often happens, in retrospect, people come back and look at it and realize, no, wait a sec, this thing is brilliant. And they're right, it is brilliant. It's one of the greatest albums of all time. It's certainly my favorite Van Morrison album. I like it better than Astral Weeks, just slightly. And I don't know, it could just be that I've heard Astral Weeks too much, because I was introduced to this one way later. But yeah, you just can't deny it. Highlights. Well, the whole thing is a highlight. Lyndon Arden stole the highlights. That's a great song. And you don't pull no punches, but you don't push the river. Come on, come for the album titles or the song titles. Stick around for the whole thing. Feed and Fleece, Van Morrison, number something or other. Number 50 whatever, 59, 50, 57. All right, let's go to number 56. 56. Number 56 is the second album by the band. This is their self-titled album. And their first album is brilliant too. Songs from the Big Pink. Also a brilliant album, but I like this one slightly better. You know what? Music from the Big Pink would be whatever, number 102 on my countdown. It's amazing. But this one has some undeniable classics. The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down, Up on Cripple Creek. But then it's got some awesome album cuts too. I mean, Rag Mama Rag's another hit. But King Harvest is Surely Come, Lookout Cleveland, Jemima Surrender. Yeah. This is one of those bands that I appreciated early on, but I didn't grow to love till much later on. But it is really just an outstanding record. The band's self-titled, I was going to say debut, but it's not their debut. It is their second album, and it is my 9876, my 56th favorite album of all time. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Number 55. Number 55. Well, you knew this guy was going to be on the countdown. This was released March 22nd, 1965. It's Bob Dylan, Bringing It All Back Home. Bringing It All Back Home. I'm actually surprised this one isn't higher, to be honest, because it's got some of my all-time favorite songs by him. Subterranean Homesick Blues, Maggie's Farm, Gates of Eden, It's All Right Ma, I'm Only Bleeding, It's All Over Now Baby Blue. Bob Dylan's 115th Dream is about the funniest song he's ever done. It's yeah, I'm surprised it isn't higher, but it is. But there are some higher ones, and it's an amazing album. It's an absolute classic, and it's interesting when you start putting these lists together. You kind of figure out which ones actually end up, getting pushed down the list. And I really didn't expect it to be this low, but it's a classic album cover. I still got to get an original or an earlier pressing. This is a reissue, but I really like it. So there you go, Bob Dylan, Bringing It All Back Home at number 55. At number 54, we have the Smiths' debut album, self-titled. And the Smiths are one of my favorite bands of all time. And I love Morrissey's music as well. I know the guy's a bit of a kook, but I love his music. And but you can't beat the Smiths. And this is their debut. This sounded completely different than anything else that came out at the time. When was this released? February 1984. Yeah, this sounded completely different than everything else at the time. You got to remember, the 80s, the synthesizers were coming in. It was boop, 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 boop. But this bad boy was organic. It was just guitars, on the verge of rockabilly sometimes, vocals, guitar, bass, and drums. It was as simple as it gets, simple name, but boy, those lyrics and Johnny Marr's riffs, unequaled in history, and just an amazing album. Reel Around the Fountain. Oh, Morrissey's falsetto and You've Got Everything Now is awesome. Morrissey's falsetto in Miserable Lie gets a little bit much, if I'm being honest. This Charming Man, Hand in Glove, Still Ill. Yeah. I decree today that life is simply taking and not giving. England is mine, it owes me a living. And ask me why, and I'll spit in your eye. Oh, the Smiths debut, number 50, whatever, 4 or 5 or something. 54. Okay, let's go on to number 53. And it is the 4th studio album by an American jangle pop classic band, primarily from the 80s. It is The Replacements. It is their album, Tim. It was released October 14, 1985. Just prime jangle pop. Again, I love The Replacements. So many of their albums I thought were going to make the cut, and they all eventually had to be pushed off. This is my favorite album by The Replacements. My second favorite is Pleased to Meet Me, which I love that album too. But just so much great stuff. So many classics on this. Kiss Me on the Bus, Here Comes a Regular, of course, Bastards of Young. I mean, what else can you say about this album? So that is my number 53, or 4 or something. No, 53. Tim, The Replacements. Number 52. What is going on here? Where is... Okay, come on. Number 52. Boop. This is raw and unedited. Come on. Okay, this album was released August 23rd, 1994. Someone in the comments section last video said, can you tell me what date these albums came out? And so I'm trying to do that, but you got to be fast. I'm multitasking. Number 92, or 92, 62, 52, whatever. Jeff Buckley, Grace. That's my August 23rd, 1994 is when this was released, and the guy sings like an angel. This is such a beautiful album. Y'all know it. His version of Hallelujah, a song I never need to hear again for as long as I live, but his version still gets to me. The title song is great. And Last Goodbye, to me, is just one of the greatest songs ever written. Last Goodbye is a heartbreaker. It's an amazing song. This is my number 52 album of all time. Which brings us to number 51, which is this guy here, released in October 1968, I believe. And it is a self-titled album, but again, it is not their debut. It is the second album by Traffic. And, not the biggest Steve Winwood fan in the 80s, but boy, did I like the stuff he did in the 60s. And this album was great. This album was an interesting time for the band because they were at a point where Dave Mason kind of wanted to keep things sort of bluesy and organic. Steve Winwood and, what's his name? Jim Capaldi, like they were interested in kind of going off in sort of jazzier territory. I think that's right. Yeah, for like jazzier and improvisational territory. And so basically by this point they were already kind of breaking up this lineup, anyways. And so some of the albums are done by Mason, some of the songs are done by Mason, some are done by Winwood and Capaldi, and they sound totally different than each other, and that kind of gives this album a bit of variety. It's still very 60s. It still kind of has a lot of psych rock and things like that, a lot of blues, a lot of kind of jazzy moments. It's just amazing. I kind of like that, and I kind of like the aggression that's put out throughout this album too. It's just the way they kind of work off of each other. So yeah, so a lot of wonderful things to say about this album. And there you have it, number 60 through 51. So next time, we'll be getting into my top 50, and I'm looking forward to it. And I'll try to do it as quick as I can. But you know, I do these videos. You know, like I say, I'm not the most active member of the VC, and that's sort of by choice. I like to kind of keep things sort of small, and I do these videos because I started doing them because they look like they were a lot of fun to do, and so I do them while they're fun, and when they're not fun, I don't do them. I do other things. I bought a lot of records. I've gone to a lot of shows this year. Kind of dig hanging out with my wife, so you know but anyways, I'm gonna try, and I've bought a lot. I think it'd be nice to kind of break things up with a bit of what do you call it, just kind of spins and finds video again. I might do one of those too. If you know what, if I'm in the mood or have the time to do another video quickly, I'll make the next one just kind of a little spins and finds video, and then we'll jump right back into the countdown, into the top 50. For those that stuck around, thanks for doing that. It's really nice of you, and I hope you enjoy it. And I'm still enjoying a lot of your videos too, if as I get the chance. So keep it up. Thank you very much, vinyl community, and we'll be talking to you again probably soon. Ciao. Bye.